Hi, I am Michelle van Honor Green Thompson, the editor of Those Who Travel Meet Themselves. Join us on this journey as we talk to different brown South Africans who've used travel to impact their lives.
Hi, greetings. I'm Tiffanie Anderson, and I'm the founder of Away to Africa. By way of schooling, I am a trained attorney. I'm also a professor. I was born in Queens, Jamaica, Queens, New York. I currently live in Kingston, Jamaica, but I am an avid traveler of the continent. I would say this is my second home as well.
Fantastic. Tiffanie, your story that you shared with us, you said that you met God and she lives in Africa.
Yes.
And I think that's such a profound statement. And I just wanted to unpack that with you. When you say you met God and you say she, it goes against all the other ideas that people have of God. Can you unpack that with us?
Sure, starting from the beginning of the statement, speaking that I met God in Africa, it's just a feeling that I will say welcomed me the first time arriving on the continent. This was in the summer of '06, and I did a study abroad program with the law school in Cape Town. And just immediately, it was the energy of landing into South Africa. It was the people who welcomed me in the sense of like, oh, welcome home, Cece. This is your home. We can see from your cheekbones, this is where you belong. So it's the first time ever in life that I felt I was somewhere that I can truly call home. And this was a place of home without me even knowing. Like it's a place that welcomed me, it brought me in, it drew me in. Africa made the decision for me that this was going to be home instead of me making that decision. I had no idea what I was walking into. So I also say that I met God in Africa because I learned more about myself. I learned more about connecting with other people. I learned more about letting go of the superficial meaning of success, love, and happiness. I learned the true meaning of Ubuntu. So, in a sense of the way I was, I'm working, I'm in law school, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it in life and this, and then you're quickly humbled to know that, listen, even though that's what you do, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
So that was a strong point with me saying I met God because I believe that God is love. We all have love within us, and the more you extend yourself out into the world and to meet new people, the closer to God you get because you're getting different forms of love. You're getting love in different languages and different cultures. So you're therefore going closer to God. So that was the main reason I said I felt as if I met God in Africa. I said she because the saying came from originally Will Smith said, God visits everywhere, but he lives in Africa. So I just put a twist on that because we say Mother Nature, we say Motherland, we say Mama Africa. So I'm not saying that God is not a he. I'm just saying we must acknowledge the she in the God in us or the goddess in
Absolutely.
us. So it's hard to just give all credit to men without acknowledging like without women life wouldn't be. So we should also acknowledge the feminine nature of God as well. So that's why we say I'm a God he, but she was really profound to me. Not saying when I go and pray I see it's an omnipresent type of feeling and vision. So it's not saying that God is of one sex, but it's acknowledging the female balance in God as well. So that's where that came from. And in Africa, it's obvious. This is the origin of life, of everything. So that's facts. That's not just everything is in my opinion. This is facts. Life begins in Africa. So that's where the saying came from. It was inspired by Will Smith, but through my exploring and being welcomed onto the continent, that's where the full saying came from.
As an African, I'm always looking for things we have in common with other human beings. And I like the way you were sharing that. They said they could see from your cheekbones that you're back home and that you're part of Africa and that Africa is you. And so, through your travels, when you're traveling, what are you looking to connect with in other human beings?
Okay. what I'm looking to connect with is honestly, I like to see and get to know the woman of the communities first, of where I'm traveling to. It's also because if you're traveling as a woman and you're meeting men and men are nice to you, yes, they can be genuinely nice to you, but when a woman is genuinely nice to you and they welcome you and they take you into the kitchen and they show you, okay, this is how we cook, and even with being able to get fitted for different garments and different cultures and things like that, it means so much for me as a woman to be welcomed by other women within a household, within a community, because it's the truest form of respect. When you want to
Absolutely.
look to anything that's going wrong in a community, you honestly, you're supposed to look to the women of the community because we have so much power. For instance, this is a little bit off, but if men who are walking around with their pants hanging down, if women are like, we're not doing X, Y, and Z until you pull your pants up, men will begin to pull their pants up.
Hmm.
So it's just acknowledging the power and the strength of women coming together within a household and also community. So that's the first thing I definitely look to see. How those relationships are built organically. Like when I traveled to Namibia to the Himba tribe, and it was just myself and my guide because I was doing an educational tour. And we had the guide, and she's like, "Oh, take pictures," and I'm like, "No, I just don't want to walk into that compound taking pictures as if I'm someone to come through drive-by pictures there and some presentation, or they
Hmm.
where we just come take pictures and we don't connect with them, and then we leave. Thank you, buy something from there, and then we leave. I really wanted to sit and talk to them first, introduce myself. They invited me to play a game with them also, and then from there, it was like, okay, do you mind if I take pictures? And then when I'm taking pictures, I'm showing them the pictures that I'm taking. I give them my camera so they can take pictures also. So I think that's really going again, related to the woman in the community, but how you approach someone's household as a stranger. Seriously, you can't feel just because you paid for this experience, it equates to you somewhat disrespecting and treating the people of the household as an object, objectifying people to say, okay, this is like a zoo, let's take pictures and let's post it. And oh my gosh, when I visited this place, I was so humble. No, man, you must really leave your standards, your expectations of life, and what you've learned whenever you're walking into someone's home, someone's community, someone's country.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I always, that's a big thing for me as well. When I go to a friend's home, when I go to a different place, each place has its rules and etiquette of how you interact with each other, and you have to respect that. And I think even within, it's quite an, I would say, there's, I always thought it was an African narrative, but it just shows you that it's 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 so profound what you've
Mm,
just said. It
I
really
agree.
is, and it's so important. No matter where you go, no matter which culture you're visiting, it's so important to actually, observe and not treat people like a zoo. That was on point.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah.
So moving right along from that question into, because I think you basically touched into the next question that I was going to ask, because uh, that is, what is the power of being African? And I feel just that
Mm,
ability to be aware of that,
mm,
is already part of that power. Can you expand further for us on, for you, what is the power of being African, of being a woman a black woman who travels the African continent, and you know
mm,
what for you is the power of all those
mm.
things coupled together?
It's funny because I pray. I'm like, God, when I die and I'm brought back again, if you bring me back as a black woman again, that's what this was the best experience. And if I'm allowed again, I want to experience being a black woman because although in a sense we are the most disrespected in the world, we also, why are we the most disrespected? We have the most power, and we continue to rise, and we continue to rise. So I always had this feeling like, oh, before I turn 40, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to have so much wealth. And it wasn't I'm like, I still have a few years ago, but I'm like, it wasn't until I think even maybe a couple years ago, and I'm counting the numbers of countries I traveled to on the continent alone, and I'm able to introduce what I know and the passion I have about Africa to others, and to say, give me a shot, give away to Africa a shot, and come and visit and see what life is about. Um, I was traveling, I was in Senegal and going to the Renaissance statue, and Senegal just has a regal feeling within itself. It was at that time I was like, my wealth is beyond what I have in my pocket. The stories that I will be able to tell my children and my grandchildren and my great grandchildren, and starting a seed of somewhat of an empire to connect Africans on the continent throughout the diaspora with each other. It's like low key a Marcus Garvey type feeling, but actually seeing people land for the first time into Africa and crying, and when they're leaving, like, this changed my life and I want to return, I want to invest, I want to live here. And just to think that prior to that trip, they were unaware, and it's the same thing I went through. I was and I That's going back to the initial question. I didn't know how powerless I was without Africa until I came. And let's look at, again, go to science and facts. Look at how much melanin is worth on the market, and to know that we absorb that, we are a walking, we embody what true melanin is. And then when you add that to the peripheral gland and our third eye, and us being able to see and feel and know certain things that others can't, because they're not even on that. I'm going into a way different way
No,
different
keep on
direction,
going. Because
but
I mean, that's it. It's about the African narrative. It's about who we
mm,
are, what makes us. Because we all. You can say I'm African. I can say, But the thing is, what is our narrative? What is the narrative that we have for ourselves, that we've created for ourselves, that we know about ourselves?
right.
Because I think sometimes, we ourselves don't know enough about ourselves. We don't appreciate ourselves enough. We don't see the magic in us.
We don't see the magic in us, because at least from those coming from the West, we didn't the highest point of history that they, or most extensive amount of history, or as far as they would go back, was slavery. How could you know how powerful you were unless you were getting that education at home, or you were going to research for yourself about King Mansa Musa and about other kings and queens, Queen Zinga, and things. How do we know about these great warriors who actually fought back? All we know was captivity
Mm.
and obeying and listening to your masters, and reducing yourself to less than what animals, are identified as. How can you walk around then saying, I am a queen, I am able of everything, I am African, I am beautiful? You had to be taught that
Mm.
at home, so even in that sense of understanding how powerful you are as an African, is just look at how much of our history they try to keep from us. That knowledge is power. So once you start obtaining that power, you start traveling, you start meeting others, you start creating your own history book. That's when you can really, at least for me, I can say I'm proudly an African. Like, even when I come and I travel, and sometimes they hear my accent and like, oh, where are you from? And I have to quickly say, okay, I live in Jamaica, for them to listen to me and to know that I traveled, like, I make it my life to travel this continent. I thought I was going to be a lawyer on Wall Street or on Fifth Avenue. I knew the law firm I was going to, and God had a totally different plan for me,
Mm-hmm.
which I love. I'm walking my purpose in life.
Yeah.
So that's another part of being proudly African, knowing I can come on the continent, and even though I'm questioned through my accent, through my passion for Africa,